Hey guys, Don here, letting you know that the Open Cut podcast is now available on iTunes and Apple Podcasts. We'll be on your devices and apps of preference, so check us out. Here's the show.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
We are now in the cut.
Welcome back to the Open Cut podcast.
It is August 22nd, Thursday. We are fresh off of UFC 241. Week before that was the first ever Fight Night Uruguay. Let's start there. Headlined by Valentina Shevchenko and Liz Carmouche. The headline fight's been getting some criticism for not being too exciting, but at the same time, Valentina Shevchenko was dominant the entire time, never looked out of her comfort zone, never looked hurt or in trouble or anything. So do you need to put on an exciting fight if you just win that easy?
I guess when you're that good, it doesn't matter. Check clears the same way.
Yeah, I guess, but the next check is big. I guess
next check's real big.
Well, I think you put on exciting fights, people want to watch, maybe your next check's bigger. Not necessarily for this fight, but moving forward. But so Valentina Shevchenko is victorious in this. This was a rematch with Liz Carmouche. It was one of her first, actually, I think it was her first loss. One of her only losses in MMA years ago. She gets that fight back. She's still defending her title. But who is she defending her title against now?
See, that's kind of where I go back to what the big check is. The big check comes because you're the champion, but the problem is the people you're going against, you're not really going to be able to put on too much of an entertaining fight, because the Jessica Eye fight was entertaining because of the head kick knockout. It wasn't a challenging fight. Liz Carmouche going to the end with her was a little bit more of a challenging fight. I don't know many people below that are going to be able to continue to keep that speed, except what we've talked about before. We get a new name that we've never talked about. So, yeah, I mean, getting a 9-year TKO doctor stoppage back the way she did being the champion, that's badass. Just right now, I don't know who even comes close.
That's where I'm at. I don't see the competition. Right now, Caitlin Chukagian and Jennifer Maia just got set up to fight each other. And those are kind of like the next two in line for Valentina. She had said she wants to fight again before the end of the year. But with this fight taking place, she can't fight either of these people before the end of the year. I don't know who else there is. I mean, there's the winner of this gets the next title shot, I think. There's just no one else that's even that you could justify giving a title shot to till then.
I think that's maybe why they made that Maya Chokagian fight, to basically give time to let's build it up to where these girls can fight and one's going to get a title shot. At the same time, maybe that'll give more time for somebody else to start building up the ranks to at least have a name to be in contention maybe early next year. Because right now, we're going to end the year with her probably stroking somebody else again, walking right through them, and then we're back to what we're talking about now. So maybe this gives more time with that Maya Chokagian fight, because they can wait and try to get some more other fights going on while it's building up.
I think she needs to have someone who gets a win to go up against. That's why I don't think she'll be fighting in 2019 again.
No, I agree.
So that was the main event. What else on that card did you like?
So for me, we're both going to obviously talk about it. Vicente Luque, Mike Perry. The brawl of all brawl.
Yeah, hell of a fight. So that was the fight of the night for the card. Serious back and forth. Perry took a ton of damage. Vicente ate a lot of shots. And then the final minute, he had a sequence where he landed a huge knee, busted Perry's nose. Got him towards a guillotine, but really it was never going to finish him. Held him in it for a while. Then they got up and the fight was about over. I honestly think, if it not for that last minute, Mike Perry wins this fight. I think not only that, so we said big knee that broke his nose, the guillotine held on really long. I think even without one of those happening, this fight probably goes to Mike Perry. I really thought this was a close fight and it came down to that last minute.
I agree with you completely. I think Mike definitely put the more power punches that landed clean. I was even more impressed, though, the way that Luque took him. Because we've seen him get dropped. We've seen him be in tough brawl fights. This was a 3-round. Every minute of that round is basically a brawl. Taking those monster shots. And yeah, I think Mike Perry could have walked away with that. I think at the end, like you said, a broken nose and a guillotine attempt that he's bleeding all over the place last minute.
The blood made it look bad.
That doesn't help for judges. And, and Mike knows
see
that.
Him after the fight, Vicente looked all right. Perry was messed up.
No, that was a different person.
Yeah.
I mean, to have your nose put in an L. But I think that speaks volumes for both guys because everybody what they expected, did we expect a knockout and maybe in the first round? Sure. I'm not mad at this outcome. That shows the caliber and talent. And look at Mike Perry. Again, fills his stock exchange to say, whoever you put me up against, I'm going to be entertaining. Fought against Paul Felder, unreal fight. Fought against Cowboy, even though he lost early, had his arm broke. Perry will break, injure anything to make a fun fight. So no one's not going to book him. And just because he's got losses now doesn't mean he's vulnerable. And then what we talked about before, Luque now looks terrific. He is just continuing to build the show that he is going to be another Titan and welterweight to deal with.
So I don't know about terrific. He looks durable.
Okay.
That's what I was going to get to this later. You had listed Luque as one of your winners of the night, and I'm kind of thinking, what does this do for Vicente Luque? Because he comes into this fight favored against Mike Perry. He damn near loses. I mean, it's a close fight. It's a super entertaining fight.
Yeah.
But this doesn't move him up at all in his challenge to get a better opponent. This is just the same caliber opponent he's been fighting. He went into a fight he was supposed to win, and it was a very close fight that he could have lost. Not that he was not entertaining, not that he wasn't great in the fight, but I don't think it does much to help him.
I agree 100%. It does not help him any movement or anything else. This business in fighting has a lot of different areas. One area is he's wanting to show his talent, which is obviously very high level even as young as he is. He's still got a lot of stuff to build in a dangerous division like welterweight. But also what helps is when you're a name that people know. He had fight of the night against Brian Barberena. Does anyone talk about Brian Barberena? No, all they talk about him is for being a brawler, and he'll either be knocked out or he'll knock someone out. Vicente went in and proved that and showed that, moved on. Then he goes on to be able to have a Mike Perry fight, the same thing. Is he beating top-level guys to move him closer to the belt? No. But he's making his own name in this sport, and in turn of that...
And he's fighting often.
He's fighting often, and he just made $100,000 this year in bonuses alone. Not even from the fights. He's probably made more money in bonuses than he has in actual fights. So yes, does this help him right now? Vicente Luque is not going to retire in 2 years. So a Mike Perry fight like that, maybe somebody says, okay, look, he's maybe not ready for these top 10 guys, but let's get him 11 or 12er here and let him bang out, because I don't see him moving up the ranks much here anytime soon, no matter who loses or has any other movement.
He's got to fight someone that's...
I agree. I mean, and we can talk about that now, is who do you think is a good matchup for your perspective with him?
I don't know. That's what I was thinking about, and it's tough. I would give him anyone. I would be fine with him fighting anyone.
But you got to take away from you being a huge fan of him, because I do that too. Is you have to think, who is a good matchup for this guy to prove his skill or be shown that maybe he's not ready? Because that's almost all year what we've talked about.
Any of these guys, because all of these guys have a history. All these guys in the top. I don't know. I guess Ponzinibbio.
I was just going to say, yeah. Ponzinibbio, I think, would expose Luque so early that, hey, you're close, but you're not that close. And the problem is, I would hate to see him get right up there at that tier and get pummeled and then have to jump back down and build back up to what he's already done. Think how long you've been following Luque and know how dangerous he was. We don't want to cut that momentum short. So that's why I say with the Mike Perry fight, that's an enjoyable fight. Let's find another enjoyable fight. Anthony Pettis. Pettis is coming off a loss, which we're going to talk about. That is a perfect guy that is going to go in with the same mentality. Win or lose, Anthony Pettis will put on a show and everybody will want to make sure to watch him normally. And he's been around longer. Vicente Luque could be the new Pettis down the road when Pettis puts up his gloves. So this is a perfect time to make guys of that caliber, join together. And by the way, Pettis is new to the welterweight division, so it's not like he's been around putting his worth in. He would take a fight against somebody like that.
And that's kind of why I think it might not help Vicente that much, because he needs a fight against someone who's established in the welterweight division. Yeah, I guess Anthony Pettis is a champion.
But Anthony Pettis just fought Nate Diaz, who hasn't fought in 3.5 years, and Nate Diaz is now in rankings. That made movements for Nate. One good fight made movements for Nate, who was unranked and hasn't fought in 3.5 years. With Vicente,
in a new weight class.
If he beat Anthony Pettis, I believe he'd probably be top 10, depending on the other wins and losses that happened this year. Rankings are moving quick, but what have we always said? Rankings don't mean shit. We're going to talk about some ranking matchups tonight that don't make sense on paper, but they make sense to what's available right now.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, either of those fights would be fun fights to watch. I think that the most intriguing one would be Ponzinibbio. He hasn't been able to find any opponents. They're both South American. I think there's a little bit of beef there. And they're both on big winning streaks. So that'd be my top choice, but I like that Anthony Pettis. I mean, that's always fun fights.
Well, and I think, too, for people that are getting into MMA or maybe don't know anybody but the big names, Vicente Luque is a perfect example of a guy that if you follow and watch, he's not going to disappoint you with his performance, whether he wins or loses. So I think this is a great new guy for people to latch onto and say, hey, I watched this guy from the beginning. You're a perfect example. You've watched him from the beginning. Guys get in right now with this guy, he could be a Pettis down the road in 5 years, where he's fought everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if he's fighting that often, then he'll have a history against everyone.
And that's what we've said all year, is being as active as he is, that speaks volumes, and makes volumes, because you're only giving yourself help.
We had a big fight in light heavyweight, Volkan Oezdemir and Ilir Latifi. Volkan won this. He looked really good. He had dominated the whole time, landed huge shots, ended up finishing him in the second round, and he got a performance of the night bonus. This is a big win for Volkan, I feel like, because it snaps a 3-fight losing streak, and we got an up. Well, not an up. Ilir Latifi hadn't fought in a while, so he Volkan was favored, I believe, for this fight, but I think this win gets him out of that funk and gets him back towards the top of the division, where he's only a fight or two away from a championship fight.
Well, and we talked about it, is Latifi had the back injury speculation. Obviously, his back was fine. He picked up Volkan early in that fight and slammed him down like it was nothing. And I honestly thought that's where Latifi would take the fight over. Being short and compact and being big as he was, Volkan made sure to use that to his advantage and said, I'm gonna make you wear yourself out. And Volkan did look the best he's looked in a long time, and I'm glad for him, because in that division, you know how it is. It's very hard to get a 5-fight winning streak, but it's very easy to get a 5-fight losing streak, even if it's not your fault. And I think that fight brought him back to where he should be. And what we talked about before, the Dominic Reyes, we agree. I think he won that fight. Anthony Smith outclassed him, and then before that was Daniel Cormier. Volkan Oezdemir has had some tough trips in the octagon early in his career, and this is a guy that was a kickboxer destroying people before he got into the UFC. So this is a talented guy that probably hasn't got as much credit as he needs to. That performance against Latifi showed that he was kind of a man among boys that night. Yeah. He really pieced up Latifi, not only wearing him out, he wore his face out.
Yeah, he beat the hell out of him. And that's the thing with Volkan. As soon as he came into the UFC, he was fighting top-ranked guys.
Yes.
So he's only fought top light heavyweight competition.
And a lot of people have admitted that they didn't really rush him. There wasn't anything else for the dude. Look at the size of the guy and the things that he
was
did
knocking
early.
Out
he was knocking everybody out.
Yeah.
He made people recognize him quick because the way he finished people.
Yeah. So yeah, big win for Volkan. I got him as a winner, and I got Ilir Latifi as a loser.
Yeah.
This was a long time in the making for this fight. It was supposed to be months ago in Sweden. Latifi pulled out with back injuries. It was supposed to be a few weeks ago, and then it got moved to the Uruguay card. He just didn't look good, and he had no answers for Volkan at all. I don't see any way this can be not a sign of getting to the end for him. I mean, he's old. I don't know. I think this was the worst showing of the night, and not impressed with him.
Well, and I never want to put somebody's gloves up without them saying it. The thing that really stinks for me is his layoff time. This is his first fight in 2019. Granted, it's August right now, but that's not good, because his last fight before then was late December of last year and losing to Corey Anderson. And then before that, everything was pretty normal. I just don't see much in the well for Latifi on who he's going to fight next. That's real. I mean, are you going to do a legacy fight like with Shogun? Or are you going to do a fight with a guy that's a new upcomer and you get finished and then you just move on anyway? I mean,
nothing.
I just didn't think Latifi looked at all like a prospecting light heavyweight that's been around in the sport a while.
No, he didn't look good.
And how many other guys in that division could do the same thing that Volkan did to him very easily?
Volkan's a big dude. I don't know that too many of them hit like Volkan.
Well, no, I'm not saying that, but there's a lot of guys coming up. I mean, some I'm going to get to later, but like a Volkov, you get somebody like him of that caliber too, he would blast him up a lot. Or I'm sorry, not a Volkov, a Radic. I always say them because they look similar.
Rakic
would do the same thing to him. And I just think that that's kind of where Latifi's at right now, is his size disadvantage against these guys. There's only so many guys he matches up well against.
Yeah, he's much shorter than Volkan was, and he was dominated. Another big fight from the night was Luis Eduardo Garagori. He's the first Uruguayan to ever fight in the UFC at the first fight card, or to ever fight in Uruguay. Yeah, I guess that. Yeah,
first fight card. Yeah,
this is the first UFC fight card in Uruguay. And he put on an entertaining fight, and the fans loved it. Like, to me, this is probably the best day of his life.
Yeah.
It was a huge fight, slinging back and forth the whole time. I think he won every round against Humberto Bandone, and it was a nice experience. I have him as my biggest winner of the evening.
Yeah, and his dad said he was like the undefeated street fighter. That's what his dad was at the press conference, I guess, and they were talking about how he learned all from his dad and being a street fighter from him. I thought it was great being in your own country like that, like you said. And the cool thing is both guys gave it back and forth. I mean,
it was a great fight.
He would take down takedowns, and then he would get taken down, and then they would go at each other. Someone land a big shot. Everyone gets excited, and then, oh, God, he gets clipped, and everyone's booing. It's just having your home country behind you, that had to feel like on cloud nine. So, yeah, I'm glad that we got to bring that up because I'm really happy for him. And that only helps him get more notice. Being the only fighter from Uruguay, I mean, shit, let's line him up for some stuff.
Mm-hmm. And then, you got anything else on the card you want to talk about?
No, I mean, the biggest losers, I think you're Latifi, like we said. That's a shame. I also talked about Tisha Torres. I think what we've been saying for a while, she is very similar to Latifi. It's just there's nothing in the well anymore. I don't see any reason to keep her on the roster because no one's wanting to line up with her, and she's not been a threat in the division.
I do want to jump back for a second
to
Volkan.
Yeah.
So now he's snapped his losing streak and wants to get back to the top division. Who do you think is a good matchup for him coming out for this card?
Yeah, so for me, I think timing-wise, Jan Blachowicz coming off of the Luke Rockhold knockout. Great fight to match those two guys up to get both of them a chance to be in contender areas. Maybe not to a contender fight, but get back into the mix of it. Alexander Gustafsson, if somebody knocks on his door and says, hey, do you want to come out of retirement, make a little extra cash, and fight a big boy like yourself? I'd love to see that fight.
They're all Europeans. I'd like to see both those fights. I think it depends on what is going to happen with John Jones here soon. If they're trying to make a light heavyweight title defense for him, Corey Anderson's already lined up. I think the only one left is Jan. So if they want to make that fight here in the next several months, then Jan Blachowicz is off the table. And I love if Alexander Gustafsson wants to come back. I think that's a great fight too. If John Jones goes a different direction, I like the Jan fight for Volkan. Yeah,
and it's a marketable fight because Jan's definitely starting to make a name in that division. At the same time, you have the situation with Dominic Reyes and Anthony Smith to where Anthony Smith's probably going to get lined up with somebody soon or wait for the John Jones situation. Dominic Reyes already has this Chris Weidman. It's going to be interesting here. What John Jones is really, he's the puppet master. He basically can decide what's going to happen in this light heavyweight division, and he doesn't even care. Really. So, yeah, let's be honest, man. In light heavyweight, I'll love any of the fights with top 10.
Before we get out of here on this card, I do want to mention the biggest cuts of the day. Mike Perry's nose was obliterated.
Oh, it's
obliterated.
Surgery next morning right away. Had to. Emergency surgery.
And then Raulian Paiva was lost by TKO in the first round, and he had about the biggest cut above his eye I've ever seen in a fight.
That opened up and was a flap. Like when
yeah,
he
it's
got
gross.
open, and he didn't care because obviously adrenaline and everything else. He jumped right into it, and they're like, "Nope, hang on a second." And then right when they showed it on camera, everyone's like, "Ooh!"
Yeah.
I mean, fighter safety, but that was a badass knee that he landed on him. It didn't even look like it hit that solid, but that's all it takes. It's that fast. It's that fast.
Right open. And as we mentioned, this was the first ever fight in Uruguay for the UFC. And do you think it turned out to be a success?
I do and I don't, because it's hard with the main card with Valentina because we automatically basically already know the outcome. So we're like, that card and that fight isn't as great as it could be. Vicente and Mike brawling it out was terrific. Having a home fighter there that, you know, had a great fight, had a basically all eyes on him at the moment. And there was a couple other good fights. Obviously, the Vulcan we just talked about. I think for the first time there, it wasn't great nor bad. I think it was pretty neutral. I think if they get more exposure there and maybe get more fights that are balanced, because I think a lot of the fights that night weren't as balanced as they could have been. Like, looking back now, Vulcan Latifi was not a balanced fight. It looked that way from their records, not at all once they got in the ring. Mike Perry and Luque, I think, were probably the only match about perfect because it could have went either way like it did. After that, I don't think a card like that, now that it's got exposure, they can put bigger names on there, not just a woman big name. I think you could get another, whatever you can find to maybe get 3 in a row at the main card and build that. Kind of what we're going to talk about with 241 here is get 3 lined up of popular names. Don't just take these cards because you got people that are from the country, because there was only one from the country and then everybody else was from all over. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you can debate the quality of the fight card. It wasn't a fantastic fight card, but I thought the event was a smashing success.
Really?
To be the first one in Uruguay. Oh yeah, I thought that it seemed like everyone there was way into it. I heard fighters talking about how everyone was so excited that they were having events in Uruguay. I think for being the first time in Uruguay, I don't know if it could have gone much better. I mean, you're not going to bring a super headliner to Uruguay for the first one on a non-pay-per-view event. This was just a standard fight night. You got a championship fight. You had a fantastic fight with Luque and Mike Perry. You had a fantastic fight with your hometown boy. And you saw some ranked light heavyweights. Not all the fights all the way up and down the card were great. I would say the card itself is meh, like you were saying. Not good, not bad. But I think for being the first event in Uruguay, it was couldn't have gone better.
Well, and it's funny you say that because Gagliori had said that people don't realize how big this sport is here. So many people follow it, but we don't have any exposure to tell anybody about it. We're not having people come here till now. So promotionally,
I think they'll go back.
You're exactly right.
If they win, I think it was enough of a success that they will go back.
And you're exactly right. I think that is the moral of the story is it good enough to bring them back? Absolutely. And now the exposure's there. And again, something that you brought up a lot of people don't talk about is the fan base. The fans there were terrific. They were all about it.
It was
not a one-sided deal as far as, that this is just an event in our town. No, thank you for bringing this here. Now, good point.
So that was UFC Fight Night Uruguay. This past weekend was UFC 241 pay-per-view from Anaheim, California. Miocic versus Cormier, or I guess Cormier versus Miocic too. Cormier was the champion.
Yep.
He's the champion no longer. Stipe Miocic took the belt with a 4th round TKO, and it was a fantastic heavyweight fight to watch.
Wonderful.
DC was working him pretty good. Watching it live the first time, it looked to me like DC was dominating the first 3 rounds. Rewatching it, I think he dominated the first round, and then it just kept getting closer and closer and closer. I think Miocic had some very good sequences in the second and the third. And then the fourth, as soon as he started ripping his first body shot, I was like, oh man, that's big. And then he just started ripping him. I'm like, oh, this doesn't look good. And it was not too much longer before he finished him.
I'm very surprised with someone like Daniel, who is as much of a veteran as anybody in the sport, let alone the things he's done as a veteran, was not listening to his coaching staff. If you listen to them and they said, Daniel, this is not what we planned, or this isn't the attack we need to do here, get your wrestling involved, wait for a good shot, take him down, do both, mix it up. I don't know if it was a proving factor or he just thought, I'm already putting him down, I'm wearing Stipe out, I'm going to finish him here and make a dominance thing. Stipe really weathered the storm, and whether you think that he planned it or not, the plan worked great. He found something to expose, and that was called the liver. I mean, and he beat the fuck out of it until Daniel could no longer defend it and had to get into basically a protected position.
Well, yeah, what happened was Daniel was worried about the body shot, so he went to block the body shot.
Next
took
is
it to
the head.
Yeah, and that was the beginning of the end.
Yep. And I tell you what, it's been a long time since I've seen Daniel Cormier that tired and almost out, except for the John Jones shin to the dome kick. I mean,
well, he's never been finished except for those 2 times.
Daniel Cormier was I thought Stipe was going to gas out to where he basically couldn't defend or put any offense. He did the opposite. And I mean, I was super proud of that.
He was a lot leaner than last time.
Well, and they said that he weighed in a ton leaner, had a lot more muscle on him, didn't have to cut as much.
Didn't have to cut anything, right?
Pretty much. Well,
you're a heavyweight.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the guy might, shed, 5 or 6 pounds just to buffer, but not with Stipe.
I think he had
Daniel Cormier
1.1 pounds or maybe 3 pounds. It was like 1.2% of his body weight the next day.
And basically, it was just rehydrating.
There was it was just nothing.
Food. I had a dinner.
Yeah.
But no, Cormier, I mean, as big as he is, he's always talked about how fat breathes more than muscle. That night showed that it didn't, because even though that he had his liver exposed and got hurt, Stipe rode that storm but still had a tank. And I mean, I think he kind of tried to figure something out, and then finally the equation came to him and he's like, perfect, I got to go to the body. I'm tired. Maybe Daniel will get tired. But that was a terrific fucking headliner.
Oh, yeah.
And for Stipe to get his belt back, I mean...
That's what a heavyweight championship fight should be.
There you go. Not 30 seconds into a first round. Do we love the quick knockouts?
Yeah. That's okay, too.
I love that. I love that. But I want to see, when you got these guys that, I'm a huge Stipe fan, and I love DC also. I wanted to see Stipe get his belt back for 2 reasons. One, Cormier's on his way out. We get it. He's 40 years old. He's been around a while. Stipe... decorations in most title defenses in the heavyweight division. I want him to get that credit. I want him to be looked at as the greatest heavyweight of all time, because it is right now, as we speak, he has earned that. And him getting this belt back speaks volumes to show mistakes can be made, you can learn from it, and I'm right back on top. And then guess what? It's awesome because we get to see more fights with Stipe that matter.
I thought it was interesting. We just said that we both enjoyed this fight more than a first round knockout, and that's how DC won. And I was thinking that this way is a more convincing way to show that you are the better fighter, but in the heavyweight division you can always get caught. Do you think this is a bigger win for Stipe or a bigger loss for DC?
That's a really loaded question. That's the tough part, is I think for DC it's tough because this loss after taking the belt from Stipe puts his foot almost a little deeper into, should I retire? I think if he would have won that fight, it says, I'll stick around for that John Jones. Maybe John Jones will, come up here and do this with me now. I think Daniel might emotionally say, you know what, this is maybe my time to go. With Stipe, I think it's a way bigger win because he got vengeance and got his belt back and proved this is why I'm the greatest heavyweight of all time and I defend. And just like you said, anybody can get caught.
Yeah, especially in heavyweight.
Especially in heavyweight. So for Daniel, unfortunately, I think that was a tough one for him to take right now in his point of his career. If he was back 36, 37, I'd say he's going to see Stipe again. I don't know if Daniel's going to want to continue more, and that's something that Daniel's going to have to tell us all.
Yeah, I personally think it's a much bigger win for Stipe than it's a loss for DC.
Absolutely.
DC doesn't lose a whole lot. I mean, it definitely sucks retiring on a loss. That's a whole lot worse than retiring as a champ. But he's already done enough. He's 40 years old. He's been the heavyweight of 2 divisions, whereas Stipe now can make a claim at being the best ever. I think if he had lost this, then he was a heavyweight champion that had a good run. Not the best ever.
Yep.
Light heavyweight champion came up and beat him. But I think that this gives him an opportunity to have a serious stake at that claim.
Yeah, and for Stipe, something else that I think about is if he would have lost that, God forbid, which he definitely could have had happen, Stipe drops down the ranks and can be forgotten very quickly because 2 back-to-back title going after coming off title defenses to lose his belt and then lose it again, with the amount of things he's done there and how a lot of people don't get behind him as much, he's very similar to Cormier. A lot of people hated him for no reason or just don't follow him because he's not this loudmouth or does crazy stuff. I think with him is all of a sudden he'd be trying to get back what he built, and it'd take him a while to get there, especially in that division. So I think it's...
The heavyweight division is not the deepest division.
Well, no, it's not, but the thing is there's a lot of newcomers that are getting into the heavyweight division over the years, and Stipe might have to fight guys that he probably wouldn't have to fight before, but having 2 title losses, that's really going to hurt you to be able to run back up the rankings, if that makes sense.
So that was the main event. I guess we can continue talking about where we think they're going. DC, you think he ever fights again?
I personally don't think so. Unless someone comes and says, I'm going to give you $2 million to fight John Jones at heavyweight, and we're going to give you a year to prepare for it. And by that, I mean for John Jones to be able to figure out how to put that much weight on and fight, and DC to get perfectly prepared for John. That's about the only way I think he fights anybody again. I don't think he fights Stipe, and I don't think he obviously fights anyone else because I wouldn't either.
Yeah, those are definitely the only 2 possibilities. I agree. I don't think he'll fight again because those are the 2 possibilities, and I think he'd be the underdog going into both those fights, and he's going to have incredible self-belief. But I think if he came back, it'd be to end on a win, and I don't think he's not getting younger.
No.
So I don't think that those are going to be likely wins for him. So I don't know that he. I would say that we probably don't ever see him fight again, which is fine.
Yeah. And you know, like I always say it, I give the month for everybody. It's August right now. DC's not going to fight for another 8 months if they did line something up for him. That's not helping when you're already in the 40s.
And then you're 41.
And you're 41 real quick. Yeah. Yep.
Stipe next gets Francis Ngannou if they want to make that fight. I don't know who else you give it to that's a heavyweight. He's the only one that deserves it.
No one's deserving of it. I could see the UFC having somebody maybe have a spectacular fight here within the next 6 months, and they say, you know what, we're going to give it to you. Besides that, I agree with you. I think, my personal opinion, anyone in the top 10 that really has a wonderful fight or looks, to be that caliber, it's got to be Ngannou again. And that's a terrific fight again because that'll really show if Stipe can do again and show and exploit someone. And also now Ngannou is coming on the second half and saying, here's my second wind. I figured out how to recoup from that loss, and I'm fucking people up.
3 consecutive first-round finishes, only one of them going longer than a minute, and not much longer than a minute. He's been on a tear.
He beat Kane. No matter what age Kane is, blown out knee, knocked out from it and blew his knee out, whatever you want to say, he beat Kane. Nobody was beating Kane before.
So he's I think they could try and make a John Jones fight. I don't know. John Jones has already said he didn't want to fight him at heavyweight.
I'd love to see it, but I don't think that's good for either.
So I think the fight has to be Francis Ngannou.
Yep.
Unless DC decides he wants to come back and get a trilogy fight, but I think the fight has to be Francis Ngannou.
Yep.
That was the main event. The co-main event was Nate Diaz and Anthony Pettis. Huge fight. Exciting fight. Nate Diaz looked great.
Yeah.
Anthony Pettis busted his foot in the first round and fought with a broken foot for the rest of the fight. You really couldn't even tell. But Nate Diaz, I think, wins every round. Calls out Masvidal afterwards. Yep. Masvidal looks like he's way into it. But what do you think of this fight?
The fight itself, I loved because, we found out that these guys had beef, whatever. Pettis looked great physically and mentally. Nate looked like he didn't skip a beat. He walked back in that octagon like it was nothing, which I loved because that is obviously always a worry, especially 3 years off. I knew Nate was training, but I didn't know if Nate would be ready to jump right back in the octagon. And trust me, he showed that the word ring rust needs to be deleted out of the dictionary because that motherfucker came in and put it on Pettis in every which way, between hands, on the ground. I did notice when Pettis threw that kick, there was one part his leg gave away, and they said they thought he hurt it on that kick. Apparently, that was in the late second round. He had already done it in the first round, which really sucks. I don't know how much that impacted the fight, Both guys, though, I mean, Pettis got out of a lot of scrambles on the ground and submissions that Nate could have put him in. That was another dogfight. It was very similar to the Conor fight. The second one it was a dogfight between both of them.
It was a dogfight, but I think Nate Diaz came out on top. I mean, the Conor fight was a close fight. Nate might have won that. This one, he certainly won.
Yep.
So yeah, moving forward, I think that Jorge Masvidal fight is perfect. I think that's a huge.
It's right in the cards.
Yep. And makes sense. I hope it gets done. Anthony Pettis. We talked about maybe a fight against Vicente Luque. It depends on what he wants to do. If he wants to go back down to lightweight, I think there's options for him down there too.
Well, he's just talked about though how much it depleted his body and how he doesn't have the power and strength. And I'm not saying the Wonder Boy knockout was due to that, but he obviously knocked out a guy that's never been knocked out in a weight class he's never fought in.
Yeah.
I think he stays at home here because the weight cuts will make a difference. And obviously, okay, if Nate tapped him out or he got knocked out, I'd be like, maybe the size is a problem. I don't think the size is a problem. I think it's just the fighter you go against. And, unfortunately, you went against Nate Diaz that's been training really hard and always nasty.
Mm-hmm.
I love that Nate Diaz is going to fight Masvidal after there was rumors that Masvidal was going to fight Nick Diaz 2 years ago.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, so the best part about this is kind of a Darren Till, George Masvidal to me again. Two guys, they both say they like each other's style. They both respect each other as far as their game, but they both want to go in there and beat the fuck out of each other. And I think that is, again, what makes unreal fights. Masvidal is making a run right now, and nobody ever forgets Nate Diaz.
Yeah, he is now a superstar. I mean, if he wasn't before,
100%.
You could have made the argument he was riding on Conor before. At this point, he doesn't need shit.
Connor's riding him.
Yeah,
that made Conor actually look better.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, it made Conor look good because of Nate Diaz. He's a fantastic fighter to watch. He's incredibly talented, and I think a fight with Jorge Masvidal is the fight to make.
Might be fight of the year, whatever year it comes in, 2020, 2019. That fight to me could be fight of the fucking year. But yeah.
Another fight of the year, Paulo Costa and Yoel Romero. Holy hell, man. They were just throwing hammers at each other. It was
every round.
Nuts.
Every round. And Paulo kept coming. Yoel was like acting like a dad playing with his kid. Like, yeah, do it again. Do it again. Oh, I got hit. Do it again.
He could take a fucking punch, man.
No one's ever seen him take that many punches. And I think that's what blew me away in that fight is no matter what, Yoel Romero losing that, the amount of shots he took from a guy like Paulo that puts people to sleep. And Paulo even joked about it. He goes, dude, I'm fighting a fucking beast. He goes, I'm fighting a guy that you cannot finish unless you do something insane. He goes, and I mean, look at him. He threw everything in the garbage can at him. But it was still a fucking great fight because they both. Yeah, I do. I think Paulo just kept the pressure, kept him against the fence. I think Yoel kind of fucked himself around a little bit, doing a lot of the showboating behind the back, holding against the fence, sticking his tongue out. That doesn't help judges say, well, this guy's putting in just as much as the other. Do a little bit crazy, at least throw a couple more flying knees or something else that you like to do. Paulo Costa is going to throw everything into his shot and try to take all of your teeth out every time, and he did. Yoel just took them very well. Seasoned fighter or not, he just, as a person, took them well. But Paulo was always the aggressor. That's just where I'm at on it.
Yeah, I agree. I thought Paulo won the fight. It was an incredibly close fight. And I don't think Yoel loses much from this. I do think that Paulo, if you beat Yoel Romero, you get a title shot.
100%.
That's what it should be. He's my big winner for this card. I think this win did more for him than anyone else.
Yep.
He is locked in his next shot at the winner of Adesanya and Whitaker because, like I said, if you beat Yoel Romero, you're a championship level fighter.
Yeah, that's when we talk gatekeepers. That's as big a gatekeeper as you'll ever fight. That is a guy that makes you either never want to fight again, or you end up doing what Paulo does. And here's the deal that we always talk about: Israel or Whitaker wins. I'm not even talking about that now. You're fighting Paulo Costa. Let me know what day. Because that's going to be a phenomenal fucking fight.
And I was not big on Paulo Costa. I did not pick him to win this. You did. He was an underdog coming into this, but I think he looks so much more impressive in this fight than Israel did against Kelvin Gastelum.
That's a good point.
Coming off of these two fights, if they fought right now, I would pick Paulo Costa to win that fight. Just based on the previous two performances, and that's the only fight Paulo's never finished, I think that he is a dangerous, dangerous middleweight.
I think the only thing that I go into with Israel, and not just because he brought it up, Paulo got busted up by Yoel, not because of jabs. Israel can throw a lot of jabs and powerful jabs, and Paulo is just a guy that gets busted up easy, gets swollen easy. I wonder if a fight like that he likes, the fighting style that he has, going against a guy that's a little bit more technical as far as knows how to get shots in and out and get out of the way, if it can frustrate Paulo and also bust him up, that even if he does go decision, he's going to lose it because he's going to look worse. Like Kelvin and Israel went at it.
How bad Israel looked?
Israel looked fucking bad.
I was just going to say the exact, as you were speaking about this, I'm thinking this is against Yoel Romero, and Paulo Costa looked way better than Israel Adesanya did against Kelvin Gastelum.
And that's
not
true.
A big striker.
And that's not a big striker, no. I think that if you get a guy that can get those touches on each other, kind of Colby style, either one of them could be a problem. I'm not saying that I think he could absolutely murder Israel if he gets a clean punch on him, and especially after what Israel went there. I don't know what to expect with these guys because they're two new breeds.
Yeah,
and I hate to always say that. I've just not seen enough to really know, is this guy the best? Is this guy the best? Can these guys mix well?
I'm excited for the top of the middleweight division right now. I'm really looking forward to that unification fight and then Paulo Costa to get the winner.
And
like
what
you said,
sleeper.
Doesn't matter who it is. I want to see Paulo Costa fight the winner.
And what a sleeper division for the last year, and now we're talking about it like it's the welterweight. This might be the welterweight division we've talked about all year long next year. The way shit keeps moving.
But they still got a ways to go.
But there's a lot of people moving to middleweight, and there's a lot of people coming into the UFC in middleweight that we could see.
Let's go with the main fight for the prelims was Carmouche and Devontae Smith. Carmouche took this fight on short notice against his buddy.
How funny is that?
And gets the win.
And, I mean, hurt him bad.
UFC debut.
And went wild. Did you hear what he said after? He goes, I don't care about belts. I'm here 100% for money. And I'm like, you know what? Say what you want about that. That's a guy I'm going to want to watch because all he wants to do is knock people out to pay his kids. Masvidal joked about it. I won't want my kids to pay for college. I got to get them through college. He's hurting people and doing some pretty damn good fights. You get another guy like that, and that guy is very scary. And yeah, a debut against your best friend, I mean, somebody gives me a nice payday, little $50K bonus.
Yeah, you get the performance of the night bonus.
I might knock you out, Don. Yeah. I mean, it's going to happen.
Good luck. Corey Sandhagen looked fantastic against Rafael Assunção. Fantastic. I'm sold on Corey Sandhagen now. I think he's maybe the second biggest winner. Winning against Rafael Assunção is a big deal. He's got a bit of a logjam ahead of him in the bantamweight division. Absolutely. He doesn't have the clear shot to the title like Paulo does. But the way you were talking about the middleweight division just now is how I'm feeling about the bantamweight division. All of a sudden, TJ's gone, Dillashaw, and this is right when the bantamweight division explodes. There's so many good young fighters. Corey Sandhagen has just thrown his name in the ring for top contender. I think Aljamain's got it right now. I don't know what's going to be the deal with Henry Cejudo, when he'll be able to defend that particular belt. But there's a lot of guys chomping at the bit to be right at it, and there's some older guys coming down. Frankie just said he's coming down to bantamweight. You got Uriah coming back. Dominic Cruz said he's coming back now. TJ's still a year and a half out, about a year and a half out. And then you have the young guys. You got Petr Yan, you got Corey Sandhagen, and then you got guys that are at the top but not quite champions, and that's Marlon Moraes and Aljamain Sterling. So I think, honestly, a win against any of those guys, or a matchup against any of those guys for Corey Sandhagen is probably, he might only need one win, depending on who fights who. But I think the one that does the most for him would be Marlon Moraes. I think that fight makes sense. He's coming off of a loss. He's not waiting for the next title shot. He just lost his title shot. A lot of those guys might wait it out. I think matching Corey Sandhagen up against Marlon Moraes would be my pick for him moving forward. And I'm ready to see the fight. After what he did to Rafael Assunção, just dominated him the entire fight, I'm ready to see that fight.
I've been a big fan of Corey, and I really like his style, and he showed up exactly the way that I'm glad he did, because this is what happens now. I pulled back a little bit and went with Petr Yan just to...
That's another good fight.
And I like the fight because both guys are on fight streaks. Aljamain's going to wait his time. Marlon, who knows? Maybe Marlon says, I want to take a little extra time after my loss, because he didn't have a loss for a very long time. And then he obviously has the Henry fight. So, again, you mix Uriah in there, Dominic, now Frankie moving down, which we'll talk about that. This division is a short line that everybody's right at the finish line waiting to get in. It's a true log jam, like you said. So, everybody's chomping at the bit, but every fight's entertaining, and that's what I love is I don't care who you match me up with. I'm going to watch it. Just let me know what weekend it's on.
Yeah, and that's where I'm at. Is those are all great fights. My thinking with that Petr Yan fight is it's another great fight, but that's the only situation where you have the young two up-and-comers, and in that situation, you're going to end one of them. If you go up against Frankie Edgar, you're not ending Frankie Edgar. You're not ending Uriah Faber. He already retired. You're not ending Marlon Rice. Everyone's seen him knock out everyone.
That's a good point.
You are really stopping the momentum for one of these guys if you put them against each other. You're not giving them both a chance. Logically, if you're trying to find the next top contender, I think it's a great fight to make. But for
building,
for building them up, I think that they should probably.
Yeah, that's a
opponents.
Good point, because what do we talk about all the time is, oh man, this guy was killing it, and now he had one loss and he's gone. Cody's a very classic example. Cody come in and started having all these fights with guys, even after the stuff with TJ, fighting Pedro. Pedro was coming up just as much as Cody off that. That's a new up-and-comer, even though he had the belt. But, yeah, you don't want to kill someone's momentum. You can end someone very quick.
Division.
You can be forgotten.
It's becoming one of the best divisions in the UFC, I think.
Nice.
Who else we got that night? Sabina Matzo and Shauna Dobson started it off the whole night.
Yeah, I like that, man. Matzo, I was really impressed with. Just used all the different punches and kicks that she had available and just kind of outclassed Shauna. Shauna's reach could not get to her. She chased her but never could land any punches. I know I talk about it all the time. It's nice to see kind of somebody with a lot of talent start off the card, and Matzo really did that. Is she used a lot of her talent just to control that fight, and I think that girl in the flyweight is going to be somebody that's maybe going to be a name we talk about a little bit more down the road. I just thought it was a very enjoyable fight because I saw distinctively Shauna could not keep up with her, and Matzo was inside leg kicks, punches, elbows, throwing everything around, and Shauna was just throwing everything into a punch to knock her out, and it was kind of an outclassing. So I hate to see it for a fighter, but it was kind of fun to watch.
So that was UFC 241. It was a fantastic card, top to bottom.
Yeah.
It really had everything you wanted. It's the heavyweight championship fight. You got to see Nate Diaz, Anthony Pettis, and then, like I said, Yoel Romero and Paulo Costa just slug it out. So the main card was huge. You had some big names on the undercards and a lot of good fights. Bravo. Actually, I wanted to bring that up. This is what we were talking about, how pay-per-views used to be.
Yep.
And I think a big issue is they have fights every damn weekend.
That's true.
I'd like to see them do in a given month no more than 3 cards and no more than 1 pay-per-view. I think at this point you got too many fights going on. You don't have enough. It's kind of watered down by the time you get to the pay-per-views. We've had some big name pay-per-views earlier this year, but this one really felt like a big event.
This was exactly what you said. This felt like to me when I'd get excited and say, hey, I'm watching the card this weekend. Are you buying the fight? Or you want to go watch it somewhere? Or, hey, who do you got? You're exactly right. Having over 650 active fighters on the UFC roster, they've kind of handcuffed themselves. They have to make these fights. They have to get these fights in to make more entertaining ones down the road, and they have that many fighters they can do it with. Problem is you're almost biting a little too much of the elephant at one time.
I honestly wouldn't mind them taking that Tuesday night slot from Tuesday Night Contender Series and having some prelim type fights
and
to get
fill
fights
in
on weekdays, on TV, and then you have the weekend events where they're all bigger cards. So instead of spreading out the bigger fights over all the cards, concentrate those and then have like a weekday that you do every other week or something like that.
Well, think about that. You take that out. Now you can have the pay-per-view at 8 p.m. There's a lot more people up and a lot more people that'll want to buy a pay-per-view on a Saturday at 8 p.m. because it'll probly be done before 11.
Well, yeah.
And I know the coast is I know the coast help on that, but a lot of times I'll be honest with you, there's times where I'm like, man, this is probably not going to get over till 1. I'll just watch it the next day. Instead, no, I'm going to watch it right now because I'm already up and I'm in my 30s and I'm going to watch it on a Saturday at 8 p.m. That can help people. And then, okay, granted, then you have the West Coasters that have problems because it's too early for them. Thing is, tell me somebody's not out drinking, watching fights at 5 o'clock on fucking Vegas time.
So you're saying get rid of the prelims completely?
Don't get rid of them completely. Do what you said. Have your prelims on at a different day during the week and give a little feed to it. It would be hard for people to get used to, trust me. I'm not saying that that's a solution. I just think this is a card to where I have Anthony Pettis, I have Nate Diaz, huge fucking names. Then I have Stipe and DC fighting for a belt. That's what most pay-per-views were always about. John Jones belt, Cormier belt, Connor belt, all of that. Then you're going to mix in a bunch of other contender fighters. Derek Brunson was on there. He's been on hard times. He beat Ian Heinisch. You got Paul Costa. You got 2 action figure bodybuilders fighting in the fucking octagon, trading shots over and over again. That card gave everything to everybody, whether you follow the sport a lot or you don't. And that's what makes a pay-per-view is anybody can say, I'm going to pay for this, and they get a little bit of what they want.
Yes, I think the crux of it is it's just there's too much going on. It's too watered down. But this particular card was fantastic.
It was spot on to what we want to see.
Let's get into some fights that have been announced since the last time we got together. We'll start at heavyweight. So that Blagoy Ivanov and Derek Lewis fight we talked about is now official. That is happening. Stefan Struve is coming out of retirement to fight Ben Rothwell. How do you feel about that?
I like it. I mean, I didn't want to see Struve retire, even though it was for a health reason with the heart and everything. If he's really cleared to come back, I think that's a great fight. Been around in the sport just as long as Struve has. 2 names that people will watch. And hell, who knows? They may put on a hell of a show for heavyweight. Yeah. 2 veterans, really.
His retirement did not last very long. What is that, like 4 months?
I mean, maybe 6. It's probably 6 now, but I mean, the itch gets you. I mean, Stefan Struve came into the UFC at what, like fucking 20? He's been doing this for 12 years.
I think he was
like
the youngest
18
ever to come in when he came in. Yeah, it was February, so it's been almost 6 months to the day today.
Yeah, a 6'7" from Holland that comes in and fights in the heavyweight division and is he gave Stipe one of his losses. Like, this guy's met everybody. I think it's a cool fight, and I'm sure he's getting a very nice paycheck for it also.
And then the same night as that, December 7th, Alistair Overeem is fighting Walt Harris. And this is a fight we had both said we wanted to see.
Yeah, buddy.
This will be a good fight.
I'm excited. Again, Alistair's coming back into being a big threat. He likes to throw hands, but still gets away from people. Walt Harris is on a tear ever since the USADA stuff's over and his disqualification.
He's looked good.
He has looked good. And again, he's kind of on that Nagano train. I'm going to beat somebody in under 2 minutes. He wants to do that. If there's a guy I want to see him do it against, it's Alistair Overeem. Because even though Overeem's a little bit more defensive now, you trade with him, he's going to try to get back to you.
Light heavyweight division, we mentioned Corey Anderson and Johnny Walker were tied up, so they were not available for John Jones. They will be fighting each other. We got Lil Nog. He's fighting again in Brazil.
Can't keep him out. But it's home country fight. I mean, why wouldn't he?
And then Dominic Reyes and Chris Weidman. And I was kind of surprised Dominic Reyes took this fight. To me, he's saying he wins this fight, he gets a shot at the belt. That's the exact same thing Jan was saying when he fought a former middleweight champion who came up for his first fight in light heavyweight. And it doesn't look like he's getting the belt. And if he is, then we haven't heard anything about it. I don't think this does much for Dominic Reyes if he wins. I think it's a huge win for Chris Weidman if he wins. I don't think this does much for Dominic Reyes.
I think Anthony Smith and Thiago Santos beat everybody to the party. I got up here and I did that style and got a title shot and lost. UFC is kind of like, nah, I don't think we're going to do this anymore. You guys are coming from another weight class. I think you're exactly right. I think Dominic Reyes has a great fight. Maybe fucks up Chris like Luke Rockhold got. That's it. I don't think it gets him his title shot.
It may just because they're looking for someone.
Or there's no one left.
Clear-cut winner for that next title shot.
Well,
but
are you going to have him fight Anthony Smith next? He's not going to do that. Oh, to move one spot up and then go fight for the belt. But again, got to see what John. I mean that's and
like
guess what?
He's puppet master for that division.
Anderson versus Walker. I'll watch any Johnny Walker fight. Corey Anderson, I'd love to see him show the fuck up finally and stop talking and see what he does.
That's an interesting fight.
And that is, I was just going to say, that is a super interesting fight to me because Corey Anderson's cardio and his fight style is completely different than Johnny Walker's. Let's see if once...
Well, we don't even know Johnny Walker's fight.
That's my point.
We still have no idea how he fights.
Can Johnny
he
Walker...
people too quick.
Can he have an actual fight where he goes deep into the waters, second round or even a third round? Because, one, I hope his cardio is good because Corey Anderson, whether I like him or not, the motherfucker's got a tank. Thing is, can his tank stay alive when you're not awake?
And the other thing is, we still don't know what his shoulder's like. I mean, there's a lot of question marks on Johnny Walker right now. And he could come out and knock out Corey Anderson just as quick as everyone and just say, who's next? I could see it happening.
I'll be interested to see the Vegas odds on that fight because of all these factors of what we're talking about.
That's a tough one to pick. Moving down to welterweight, Ben Askren and Damian Maia fighting. It is kind of funny. It is a funny matchup.
I literally was joking with you about what if Damian Maia and Ben Askren fought? Would that be the most boring fight in the world? That happened, and I really hope it's not going to be boring. But
you have to think there's a very good chance that it will be.
Well, neither of them are spring chickens, too.
Yeah, they're both on their way out.
Yeah.
Ben posted up. Well, now we're going to find out who the best MMA grappler is. We will, but...
No one's going to be watching.
Yeah, we'll see.
Besides us.
And then Alex Oliveira's fighting again. He's welcoming Nicholas Dalby back to the UFC. So that's another interesting fight. Alex Oliveira is always fun to watch.
Yeah.
And this is Dalby's return fight.
Yeah, I'm happy with that. And Alex did exactly what we talked about before. He'll fight anybody. And I'm going to watch it.
Oh, yeah. I think
Cowboy.
Since he's been in the UFC, he's been the most active fighter.
That's insane.
He's, even more active than the other Cowboy, who's got to be like top 3 on that list.
Yes.
Dan Hooker and Al Iaquinta, that fight did get made for this Australia card, so I'm glad to see that happen. That makes that card better, and that's an interesting matchup. Dan Hooker's looked pretty good. Al is coming off that loss, but he's still ranked at the top of that division. So I think this is a big opportunity for Dan in his home country, and Al jumped at the opportunity to go to Australia and fight him, which is I'm glad that someone did step up and say, I want to take that, and kudos to Al for giving up maybe 10 spots in the rankings or something like that to take this fight. But he gets a trip to Australia, so it's not
I was
that
just
bad.
going to say, he gets a trip to Australia and he gets paid.
If I'm in that division, I said, me.
Yeah, I'll be there right away. Well, and guess what? He ends up knocking Dan Hooker out and gets a bonus. You had a really nice trip.
Right, yeah. I'm planning on staying there the next week for sure, at least.
Yeah, no, that's a cool fight.
Featherweight, Zabit and Calvin Kattar. You're just talking about how excited you are for this one?
What we talked about before, Zabit's been on rumor to fighting basically 3 different fighters between the Mexico City card, everything else with featherweight. I have a lot of confidence in Calvin, and I like him. I think that's a good mix because Calvin Kattar is a little bit different for the featherweight for his size and his style, and I was very impressed after the Lamas fight. And then Zabit, we've talked about forever. That is something that you can't recreate. Zabit is like I compared to Yair. He's something new. He's something you don't know how to prepare for at that weight class. And I think this is a way better matchup for both fighters to actually gain something. Calvin's going to gain a ton, and Zabit also can gain a ton saying, I am here beating everybody you give me. Give me a title shot.
Yeah, if Zabit keeps beating ranked fighters, it really doesn't matter where they're ranked.
Exactly.
If he continues to do this, he has to get a title shot. He's already got to be really close to it.
Well, you got to think. Frankie Edgar's moving now to Bantam. Jose Aldo just lost to Volkanovski. Volkanovski, like we said, is hopefully going to get lined up with Holloway. And then you have Brian Ortega that is lined up, or was lined up for the Mexico City. And
he's got no fight, but he's
got no
talking
fight
about Korean Zombie. He wants to make that fight.
Well, and that would be that's a wonderful fight. That's very comparable to what we're talking about here. But Zabit's like, I got to fight somebody. I haven't fought since March. If I'm going to, what we've talked about all day is you stay active, you get what you want.
Yeah, I think that at some point you can't deny him. He hasn't been losing.
You can't deny anybody top 8 right now, in my mind, honestly. If
well, it depends on
anybody,
who's champion. I mean, you're not going to give Jose Aldo a third title shot at Max without just stomping through everyone.
No.
Frankie's not going to get a rematch.
No, if someone said right now that after Volkanovski, I'm saying after Volkanovski fights, anybody top 8 to 10, if Korean Zombie beats Ortega, go fight Max, 100%.
What if Ortega beats Korean Zombie?
Then Ortega goes right away to fight Max.
Again?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. There's nobody, not only because of rankings, there's nobody that, to me, makes it stick out to say he needs to fight. Yeah, maybe Aldo, if Aldo doesn't get a fight between them, but
I think it's tough to...
It's tough to do that. I agree with you. I mean, I think at that point, Brian says, I just proved to you I can beat the best in this division.
He's as close as anyone.
Yeah.
Provided Max wins. I mean, Volkanovski's going to be a tough fight.
Yeah, a guy that weighed 211 pounds at one point in his life who is now fighting at 145. Yeah, I'm scared.
Let's go with the women's bantamweight division. There's been 3 high-level fights that have been scheduled. Amanda Nunes is going to defend that belt next against Jermaine Durandamy. She's coming off of that knockout of Aspen Ladd that came really quick. So that is going to be in December at UFC 245. Holly Holm is making a pretty quick return.
Yeah.
And she was just knocked out by Amanda Nunes against Raquel Pennington, and that's going to be on the Australia card. And Aspen Ladd's coming back from that loss to fight Yana.
That's one of my favorite matches up there with Aspen and Yana, because I think this is a good learning point for Aspen, minus the early stoppage controversy, whatever you want to say. Is she beats Yana, she's right back to where she was before. It's more money in the bank. And then Yana, obviously, she's had some time off. So that lets her get her name and get her exposed a little bit more in that division.
And fighting against Aspen Ladd's built up a name for herself.
Yeah, so. And I think in the women's, Ronda Rousey showed a lot of girls that is build your name and build a character and be someone that people know without having to see you. You say Ronda Rousey, no one even needs to see her picture. They know who you are. MMA community right now, you say Aspen Ladd, everybody knows who she is. Yana, I guarantee you I could ask 100 people in a room who they are. Maybe one person might be able to tell me who she is because they don't see her name often. So I think this is a huge advantage for both fighters, like we said, but Yana, honestly, way more. Because if Aspen loses, it's not hurting her in that division. That's a shallow division still.
And then moving down to the women's flyweight division, Jessica Ai is making a pretty quick return from her knockout at the hands of Valentina, or at the foot of Valentina.
Yeah,
and she's fighting Viviane Araújo. I could see maybe Araújo coming off a win here, getting the next title shot against Valentina, but really the next title shot is probably coming from Katlyn Chukagian and Jennifer Maia. They're fighting in November in New York on that card. That looks to be the next contender fight.
Yep. And I hope both of those fights are good because, again, that helps that new division, the flyweight.
Right. And they need to come up with someone to build some kind of interest against Valentina because she is dominant.
Yeah, we talked about that. That's to me, that's just a completely different ballgame because it really is a mini John Jones or a DJ to me, and that's okay. I like seeing dominant people. She's very similar to Max Holloway. Max Holloway has been dominating there, but the dominant in that is so high. There is no girl that I'm like, that girl's got a chance. I'm more like, that girl better do something crazy to make it fucking happen. And then we got strawweight lineups.
We got Cynthia Calvillo and Claudia Gadelha that got announced. And then Angela Hill is fighting like her 17th fight, I think, this year.
At least she's staying active, trying to keep her job.
And she's going to be on the Mexico City card. Yeah, she'll step in whenever, it sounds like. So,
Calvillo, Claudia, I hope is not another sleeper because Claudia's last one was a sleeper. Calvillo, after getting popped for dope and then having to wait a while, she's not had as much activity. Again, strawweight's another one that there's a lot of girls active, but there's a lot of girls that aren't. I don't know how much any of those fights change the division, but if they're good fights, it helps keep breeding the strawweight. Because especially with Rose being undecided, there's a lot of girls that could be good timing.
Yeah, and they got that championship fight coming up next event, and that could change a lot of things. So yeah, last weekend was 241. There is an off weekend this weekend. And then next weekend is UFC Fight Night China, headlined by Jessica Andrade and Weili Zhang. That fight is, I think the prelims start at 3 a.m. Eastern time, and the main card starts at 6 a.m. Eastern time.
Might be recording that.
This is going to be for sure the least watched fight, or least watched card of the year, at least in North America.
Yeah.
The combination of pretty weak card, headlined by the least known female champion that we have, and it's airing at 6 in the morning. I don't see this one being well viewed.
It's kind of a shame for Andrade, especially after the dominant performance and, having a huge slam knockout over Rose, who I love. It's just tough to see that a card fighting another very talented fighter in that weight class is a 6 a.m. in the morning prelim for main card for us. And it's nobody's fault. That's just the way it is. It's China. It's on the other side of the world.
It's Weili Zhang who's the challenger, and it's just a big opportunity for her.
Exactly.
She can do it live on her time in front of her fans in her country.
Yep.
And Jessica Andrade is given that opportunity, and if she comes away with a win here, it's even better that you went to China, beat that champion there.
I'd love to see the numbers. She doesn't have a whole lot
to sell.
Yeah,
that's the other thing, is that if you're going to do that, it's almost a throwaway card to begin with, and you're not selling her.
See, that's what I was wondering, is I'd love to see the numbers of how many viewers in China regularly compared to how many viewers here in the U.S., which I'm assuming the U.S. is way more. Is that going to go up in China to help the market in UFC there? You know what I'm saying?
The market's strong there.
Well,
it's for one.
Is this card on their time and all of that, do they have a bang out their sellout? Because if they do, then that's great. Then this was worth it for them. But if it's not, like you said, it's almost like, well, this was kind of a wasted fucking card. Not that you don't go to China. Maybe just don't pull cards like this here. But what else are you going to do?
If you're going to China, you got to do this.
I mean, this is only. Yeah, I mean, you're kind of handcuffed. Yeah. But let's talk about that. Let's talk about the opening, the headliner.
Yeah. So Jessica Andrade and Weili Zhang. I think that. I don't know. We both picked Weili Zhang to win this fight. I think that she's got a lot that she can do.
Yeah.
To Jessica Andrade. I don't think she can finish her. I don't think that's one of the things she can do.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It depends how smart she fights. If Jessica Andrade catches you and slams you, or catches you with a big fist,
it's a problem.
Yeah, you're gonna have issues. But I think Weili Zhang is gonna be she has as much of a chance of winning as anyone.
Yeah, and I just think that girl's aggression mixed with what she can do at different levels can give Andrade enough problem to be able, where Andrade can't put the hands on her or grab her or anything else. I think she can stay away. And, again, I'm with you. I'd love to see somebody in their home country win the belt and take it from somebody there, because Andrade isn't going to go anywhere. Win or lose of this, we're going to see Andrade a lot. Mm-hmm. I
think we're going to see Weili a lot as well.
I do too, and especially with the win streak and just the following of it now. And guess what? If she has the best fight of her life in her home country that night and happens to lose, it doesn't hurt her. She's going to be right back in the mix.
So that's the main event. There are a couple other fights that I found a little bit interesting on the card. Eliza Dos Santos is fighting Li Jinglang. I love watching Dos Santos fight.
Yeah, so do I.
He's got that capoeira style. Makes him a fun fighter to watch, period, I think. And I think it's disappointing that he was put on this China card, because I think he's someone that if casual fans get to see, that he's
Johnny Walker. He could be a Johnny Walker if you wanted him to be.
He's got a fun style to watch. I think he'd be very easy to get behind. So I'm interested to see how he does in this fight. Mike Grundy. He's coming off of his debut in the UFC. He's a jiu-jitsu player, high-level jiu-jitsu player. I think European champion. But he had a KO in his first fight in the UFC.
Yeah.
So I'd like to see what else he has to show in this fight. Anything else you're interested in on that card?
Yeah, Keaning Zhang versus Derek Krantz. Derek Krantz's first fight in the UFC was against, amazingly, Vicente Luque, that he just did this year in May and got knocked out. I like the way that he approached. It didn't come back to him in the way that he should have. He dropped Luque, and then Luque brought him back and then put him out. I think that this could be a really exciting fight, and I got him actually winning with a TKO in against Song. Song's been in the UFC a little bit, but even though being kind of home country, I don't think I don't think he's going to be able to match up against a guy that's kind of going to be hungry to say, I don't want to get cut this quick.
So that is next weekend. Like I said, we do have an off weekend this upcoming weekend.
Getting a little break.
And this is not one to get super excited about, but you never know. I mean, there could be some fantastic fights come out of it. And there's definitely some people I'd like to watch their performance, but it's not one I'm going to be clamoring to wake up for at 6 a.m.
That's very true.
We're still several weeks out from UFC 242, so we'll try and get back with you before that.
Yep. See you.